My son whispered the truth into my neck like a secret prayer. She doesn't let me eat at night, because I'm a bad kid. And the thing is, he was talking about my sister. That moment, it split reality in half. I was lying on the pull-out couch in our living room, cuddled up with Caleb after his first sleepover back home. I'd just returned from a 3-week work trip. Too many late nights, airports, meetings. Guilt had been gnawing at me ever since the second week, but I told myself he was safe. He was with Vanessa, my sister, and she's always looked like the textbook perfect caregiver, clean house, meal plans, Pinterest crafts, all the appearances. We FaceTimed daily. Caleb always smiled. But that night, as I ran my fingers through his curls and whispered, "Missed you, baby," he didn't say anything at first, just breathed heavily. Then, finally, in the dark, he pressed his tiny lips to my collarbone and murmured those words. I froze. At first, I honestly, stupidly thought he was playing. I even chuckled, like, huh? What? But he shook his head under the blanket. At Auntie's, only water at night, she said. Bad kids don't get food after dinner. I leaned back slowly. What do you mean, baby? And that's when he sat up, looked at me like he was confessing a sin. She said I was talking too much, so I was bad. She said I had to wait till morning. My throat closed. My hands started to sweat. I grabbed my phone beside the bed, told him gently, "Stay here," and walked into the kitchen so he wouldn't see the panic. My heartbeat was pounding in my ears like a war drum. I called Vanessa. She picked up like she expected it. "Oh, hey, he tell you about the food thing?" she said. Before I even asked, my blood ran cold. I told him snacking too late makes him wet the bed. That's all. You said bad kids don't get food after dark. There was a pause. She laughed. Oh, come on, Ratch. It's discipline. You coddle him too much. And starting that late night habit this young? That's how kids get obese. I hadn't punched someone since middle school, but in that moment, I wanted to break her stupid teeth. Instead, I hung up. That night, I didn't sleep. Waffles, my old golden retriever, pressed into my side like he could feel the war inside me. Caleb's tiny leg draped over mine like an anchor. I knew something was wrong, and when I took Caleb to the pediatrician the next day just to check in, and they noticed signs of dehydration, bruises, and measurable weight loss, I knew we weren't playing games anymore. Then the doctor asked, gently, "Has he been under any kind of stress?" Caleb looked at me with those big, tear-filled eyes and said, "Please don't make me go back." I signed the form, filed the report, and called a lawyer. And that was before I found the footage. Yes, footage from a hidden nanny cam I'd forgotten to disable. Which leads to the real question. What exactly does a perfect sister do when no one's watching? Cliffhanger. The discovery of hidden footage. Suspicion turns into horror. If you've ever had to choose between family or your child, you already know this isn't going to end quietly. Stick around. Comment if your gut just dropped. I didn't even remember that the nanny cam was still in Caleb's travel bag. I'd used it once during sleep training, then forgotten about it entirely. It looked like a cheap white owl night light. Vanessa must have thought the same. But when I finally pulled Caleb's things out of his overnight duffel, there it was, still plugged into the charger port, light blinking like it was alive, and it had recorded everything. I remember sitting on the floor in my walk-in closet, laptop open, back against the shoe rack. Waffles lay beside me, his muzzle resting on my thigh like he knew I needed to feel grounded. My hand lightly gripped his fur while the other hovered over the touchpad. The first few recordings were tame. Vanessa cooing over Caleb, helping him with puzzles, even dancing with him in the living room. I sat there almost embarrassed. Maybe I overreacted. Maybe she was just old school strict. Maybe it was me who couldn't handle boundaries. But then, the tone shifted. Wednesday night, Caleb starts asking for juice. She's calm, at first. Juice is for good boys who follow the rules. His little voice, I did follow rules. Her voice sharpens. No backtalk. You're lucky you even got dinner. Fast forward. Later that night, he's crying. She barges in. You keep whining and I'll open the window. Let the monsters come inside. You think your mommy will save you? Where is she now? Waffles growled from beside me. I kid you not, my dog reacted before I even could. I smacked paws, slapped my hand over my mouth. I wasn't breathing, my pulse racing like I was being hunted. I watched 3 more clips that made me want to crawl out of my skin. Not just withholding food, humiliation, isolation, fear. She made him eat dinner facing a wall. She hid his nightlight to teach him courage. She took his favorite stuffed dog, Mr. Scruffles, and threw it into the laundry room, shutting the door behind her like it was a prisoner. And through all of it, Caleb tried. He apologized. He begged. And she smiled. A slow, careful smile, like the kind people make when they've been waiting to punish someone. I don't care what people say about her way or old-school discipline. That wasn't parenting. That was psychological warfare on a 6-year-old. I closed the laptop, clutched Waffles like he was the only thing holding me together, and cried hard. Ugly, full-body cries. The kind that shake you. I felt like I'd abandoned my son to the lion's den and handed her the damn meat. My phone started ringing. Vanessa. I stared at the screen, then let it ring. She didn't know I had the footage yet. But suddenly, I realized she'd never asked for Caleb back. Not once. And that's when the paranoia kicked in. What if he wasn't the first? What if she'd done this before, and it never got caught? Vanessa has never asked for Caleb back, and now Rachel suspects something darker may be hiding in her past. If you're still with me, drop a comment. What would you do if this was your sister? I couldn't sleep. Again. Waffles followed me through the house like a shadow while Caleb, finally safe, snored in my bed surrounded by pillows and the stuffed animals he'd forgotten he loved. I think that's when I started picturing him as a kid who'd aged 50 years in a month. That night, at 2:13 a.m., I did what absolutely no therapist or lawyer would recommend. I stalked my sister. Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, foster mom forums. I'm not proud of it. But you tell me, what would you do if your gut suddenly asked? What if your child wasn't her first soft target? Her social media was spotless. Christian life quotes, fresh lemon water, fresh mind. Her feed was full of cupcakes and garden tomatoes and group selfies from women's Bible study, like a damn scrapbook ad. But foster forums, that's where cracks showed. I found an archived post reply, buried deep, under a thread about licensed but unfit foster sisters. Username looked familiar, Nessa Godchild 77. The profile was now deleted, but the comment was still there, quoted by someone else. It's not cruelty to discipline. Kids know how to manipulate soft-hearted people. Rules teach survival. Survival? That word chilled me. And then I found something worse, an article. 7 years old, local girl, 12, removed from a foster home, no charges filed, no names revealed. But I scanned the neighborhood listed for streets away from where Vanessa lived during that same time, back when her fiancé left her out of nowhere. Not nowhere. I think he saw something. I tried calling him, Stephen Hale. Yes, I fully turned into the unhinged sister, but his number was out of service. I even messaged his sister on Facebook. No reply, though it showed seen. That's when I realized I couldn't do this alone. The next morning, I called the attorney I'd used during my custody case with Caleb's father. Different nightmare, different time, but she picked up like no time had passed. Rachel? She said, surprised. You okay? No, I croaked. I have a really big problem, and I have footage. The conversation went from comfort to urgency in 5 minutes. She asked for everything, dates, timeframes, my son's statements, and asked me to bring Caleb in that afternoon. She also warned me, anything I accused legally might trigger her defense team to go full nuclear. I hadn't even filed charges yet, and already I was bracing for war. Then, something happened that nearly broke me. Caleb had been playing in the backyard with Waffles while I was on the call. When I came out to get him, I found him curled up on the porch stairs, holding Waffles like a baby. I bent down, brushed hair from his face. Hey, Bubby, why are you crying? He didn't answer. He just whispered, can we keep Waffles with us forever? He makes me feel safe. I choked down tears. Yeah, baby, forever. But deep inside, my protective instincts triggered something frightening. Because if I really went through with this, really exposed Vanessa, ripped open her perfect little world, what would she do? What is a monster capable of when you take away their mask? Cliffhanger, Rachel is about to go legal, but fears how Vanessa might retaliate when her illusion is exposed. If your stomach's in knots right now, You're not alone. Share this for anyone who needs to hear what hidden abuse can look like, especially when it wears a smile. It started with a knock on my door. Not the police, not CPS, not even Vanessa. It was a process server. Thick white envelope. My name written on something that instantly made my stomach drop. Emergency custody motion. Filed by Vanessa. She was accusing me of unfit parenting. I sat on the kitchen floor, mouth dry. Waffles pacing in front of me like he was ready to maul someone. Caleb peeked around the corner, eyes wide, holding his favorite cereal box. I pasted on a smile and told him to go finish his drawing. My hands were shaking so badly I almost dropped the coffee I hadn't even taken a sip of yet. I opened that envelope like it was a bomb, and honestly, it was. According to her motion, I'd left my child for an extended period without emotional support, exposed him to an unstable home environment, and here's the kicker, a dog with known aggression issues. Waffles. My golden retriever. My therapy animal. Aggressive? She included a screenshot of a single barking incident from 4 years ago. A neighbor's cat jumped our gate and Waffles barked. That's it. And now it was an illegal document. Proof, apparently, that my home was unsafe. She fought dirty. I shouldn't have been surprised. But I was. And then I realized, it wasn't just about Caleb anymore. This was retaliation. She knew I had the footage. I hadn't told her, hadn't warned her. But somehow, she knew. I called my attorney. She was on speed dial now. The line barely rang before she picked up. She made the first move, I said. Emergency custody. She has no leg to stand on once we present the recordings, my attorney said. But we're going to court a lot sooner than planned. That night, I forgot to eat. I just lay on the couch with Waffles' head tucked under my arm. Caleb sat beside me tracing his fingers along the dog's fur like a pattern he could memorize to stay calm. He asked me, quietly, "Is Auntie mad because I didn't finish my salad?" No child should ever connect rejection with vegetables. "No, baby," I whispered. "She's mad because she's wrong. And she knows she is." The next morning, court. Vanessa strolled into the courtroom with a blowout and high heels like she was walking a runway. She didn't look nervous. She smiled at me, calm and smug. I looked down at Caleb, holding my hand, dressed in a tiny blazer, trying to stay brave. But when the footage played, the room went silent. You could actually feel it, the moment when eyes shifted from this mom's dramatic to holy hell. This woman's a danger. But Vanessa didn't cry. She didn't apologize. She simply sat there, unmoved, almost like she'd rehearsed for this. Then, as I hugged Caleb outside the courtroom, I got a text from an unknown number. "That was cute. You forgot who really helped you raise him." A photo followed. Caleb, at age 2, in a bathtub, toys everywhere, and Vanessa's hand gripped around his arm in the background, tight. She hasn't just abused him recently. She'd been planting her poison for years. Vanessa reveals her past control over Caleb, suggesting this wasn't new. It was years in the making. Did that text make your blood run cold too? Drop a comment if you've ever trusted someone too much and lived to regret it. The thing about people like Vanessa is, they look you in the eye while pulling the knife. Then they hand you a towel before you even realize you're bleeding. I used to think that made her strong. Now, I know. It just makes her dangerous. We submitted Lorraine's flash drive to the DA's office. My lawyer called it game-changing. Suddenly, the court that once seemed skeptical about another messy family drama started looking at Vanessa with real suspicion. The phrase pattern of psychological and physical abuse entered the formal record. But Vanessa didn't crumble. She adapted. She showed up at the next hearing crying, makeup smudged, hair undone, talking about how overwhelmed she'd been as a caregiver, how she'd loved Caleb like her own, how she tried her best, but that motherhood stresses had blurred the lines. She looked right at me when she said that. Blurred the lines. As if starving a child was some parenting gray area. My lawyer leaned in and whispered, "She knows she's losing. This is pure damage control." Then came the emergency restraining order against me, filed by Vanessa 2 nights later. She claimed I'd sent her threatening emails and anonymous harassment after the hearing. Said she feared for her safety. It was manufactured. Completely. But I had to pause and ask myself, would the court believe her story over mine? She had charm, tears, screenshots taken out of context. All I had was truth, and truth isn't always louder. That night, I broke down. In the bathroom, shower running to muffle my sobs while Caleb and Waffles waited on the other side of the door. I stared at myself in the mirror, wet face, red eyes, barely able to recognize the woman fighting the biggest battle of her life. I felt like I was losing, not just the case, but time. Time to heal. Time with Caleb. Time to just be a mom instead of some soldier in a war I never volunteered for. Then something happened that reset everything. Caleb got sick. I don't mean a cold. I mean panic attack level sick. It was bedtime. I tucked him in, kissed his forehead, turned off the lights, and he erupted, screaming, coughing, clawing at the blankets. Don't let her in. Don't let her in. Don't let her. I flipped the switch immediately. Lights on. Arms around him. Waffles bolted into the room and planted himself between Caleb and the window like a shield, growling low. It took me 20 minutes to calm him down. Afterward, under the blankets, he whispered something I'll never forget. She said monsters steal tongues. That's why she told me not to cry. He thought if he told, he'd lose his ability to speak. I kissed his cheek and made a silent vow. Vanessa wasn't going to lose this battle. But neither was I. She'd broken enough kids already. Now, I was going to break her mask, piece by piece. Caleb's breakdown proves the trauma runs deeper than Rachel realized. But now, she's ready for war. If you feel what I'm feeling, hit that like button. It's more than a story now. It's justice. They called it the final hearing. But to me, it felt more like the moment you either stop the bleeding or bury the body. Vanessa sat across the courtroom in navy blue, her version of respectable. No tears this time. No trembling voice. Just that tight-lipped smile like she was always 5 steps ahead. And I came in with everything. The footage. The flash drive. The panic report from Caleb's pediatrician. But most powerful of all, testimony from Caleb. On camera. No jurors. Just the judge. My lawyer arranged for a private recorded interview. No pressure. No leading questions. Just Caleb telling the truth in his 6-year-old voice. He said, she said I was a bad kid, and bad kids don't get food, or love, or stuffed animals. I listened from the hallway, hand gripping Waffles' leash like a lifeline. Caleb had begged me afterward, please don't be mad at me for telling. I told him, telling the truth is the bravest thing you've ever done. And I meant it. When the judge handed down the ruling, the courtroom felt like it shifted. Vanessa, stripped of visitation, deemed emotionally abusive, permanently barred from contact with Caleb. She didn't cry, didn't rage. She just stood up, brushed invisible lint from her blazer, and whispered as she passed me, you always needed to be the better one, huh? Now look at you, mother of a broken boy. If Waffles hadn't been there, I swear, I would have lunged. But I didn't. I just placed a hand on my son's head and said 2 words as loud as I could. He's healing. She paused. For the first time, her lip twitched. And then, she walked out. Gone. Weeks passed. Caleb started sleeping without the hallway light on. He laughed more. Asked for second breakfasts. Hugged Waffles tight enough I thought the old dog might start charging rent. One evening, we were in the kitchen. I was making grilled cheese, his favorite. He sat at the table, drawing a picture with crayons. Out of nowhere, he said, Mom? Yeah. Baby, you're not gonna stop giving me dinner one day, right? That damn lump hit my throat all over again. No, I said, turning to him. There will never be a day where I don't feed you. He nodded. Good, because I'm not bad. No, sweet boy, you're not bad. You're brave. And I know we're not done. There will be counseling, dark memories, maybe nightmares that linger like smoke. But I'm no longer afraid, because I saw what monsters look like behind the smile. And I know how to fight them now. With truth, with love, with grilled cheese at night, if that's what it takes. And with a golden retriever who knows how to guard a soul. If this story reached in and touched a part of you you've buried, like it did me, please like it, share it, let someone else feel seen. And if you've ever had to choose between keeping the peace and protecting your child, leave a comment. You are not alone.